Don't forget to check out the Hockey Podcast Network's newest affiliate, NHLShop.com. That's right, the official NHL merchandise page. Right now, they're giving 20% off orders over $25 with code NHLICE25. Also, if you use our link that we're going to tweet out after this episode, you can help support us and the other hosts at the Hockey Podcast Network.
This is the Hockey Podcast Network, your home for hockey talk on every team in the NHL.
Welcome to Offside by a Mile, the podcast for anything and everything Colorado Avalanche, and the official Avs podcast for the Hockey Podcast Network. Well, first of all, I finished The Tiger King.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking awful, to be honest. I know that's going to be met with some criticism. I hope anybody who disagrees with me to please tweet at us so I can
Talk
argue
some
with
Tiger
you on
King.
Twitter. Dude, it's literally just a show about insane people doing insane things, and every time you think that the insanity has hit a peak, it hasn't. It's higher. Like it's more every single time. That being said, it's not good. Like it's not like
I feel like I have to watch it just because.
you definitely have to watch it. I'm not telling anyone not to watch Tiger King. You need Tiger King in your you don't need Tiger King in your life. However, to understand what's happening, because the show may not be great, but the fucking memes are out of this world. And if you don't understand the memes, you're really missing out on things. And it's only 7 hours. Like I think it's like 6 hours of TV.
Yeah.
Which, let's be
Oh,
serious.
man, it's tough right now.
Yeah, like you have 6 hours to watch this.
Yeah.
Don't give me that bullshit. But everybody that's like, oh my God, this show is amazing. No, it's not. It's not. The plot is awful. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've heard from most people that talk about it. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, like there's nothing
crazy.
to it. It's like watching a show about drama for the sake of watching a show for drama.
Yeah.
There's nothing there's no reason for the drama. They're just crazy people yelling at each other.
Interesting shit.
Joe Exotic's a nut bar, but Carol Baskin probably killed her husband. Like that's a guarantee. It's just I don't know. Like I'm glad I watched it, but A, there's a 0% chance I ever watch it again, and B, you're never gonna hear me say it was good. The memes are good. The memes are hilarious. People that are like dressing up as Joe Exotic and like running around and like rolling around with their cats, hilarious. Hilarious. That's about it. But yeah, Carol Baskin is not dead. I found that out definitely. That was I thought for sure Joe Exotic went to jail because she died. I was wrong. Crazy. But to the hockey stuff, that's not really stuff. Yeah. We were supposed to be meeting or chatting with Spencer, or as many of you know, him on Twitter as McWinnon, or I think his Twitter handle is Albertan Hockey Jesus. He was supposed to be on this week. He had things come up. I mean, we had things come up. If you're watching on YouTube, as of Tuesday, you'll see that our digs are a little different. Brett needed to make a home office again. Weird. You know, I don't know why he would have to work from home right now. Comfortably work from home. Not off his coffee table like a loser. So yeah, we got demoted to the basement, which is okay. We're still fine. Everything's good. The equipment's here, and that's what matters.
Yep.
But yeah, so Spencer had some things come up. He will be on next week. Fingers crossed. That's the plan.
Tuned.
This week, though, we have Grant from Hungry for Hawks Talk. Jeez. For those of you that watch and for those of you that listen, you'll remember that Grant was in studio around Christmas time for a game night, Avs versus Hawks. That was cool and convenient.
Yeah.
But, been a while since we caught up with him, so we'll catch up with him in a minute. And yeah,
Have an extended talk.
this is Game 82 weekend.
Yeah. Would have been.
It's sad.
What would have been?
It's
Man,
weird because like 2 weeks ago, it felt like we'd been cooped up for a month with no hockey, and it'd been like 2 weeks. It's now been like 4.5 or whatever with no hockey. And it doesn't feel like the season should be over today.
Yeah. It was such a weird feeling on the weekend.
Right? Like it's the 5th of April while we're recording. It'll be the 6th of April tomorrow or Monday when you're listening, if you're listening Monday. It doesn't feel like that. It does not feel like the NHL season should be over. It doesn't feel like playoffs should be starting next week. I don't like it. I don't. I'm sad. It makes me sad. Even though we've been talking about it, it doesn't feel right.
Oh, man. I know. It's such a weird limbo we're in.
And we're just getting farther and farther away
Yeah, I know.
from it legitimately coming back.
It just seems to, like, the timeline just seems to extend itself longer and longer here.
Right? Like we talk about it in the interview with Grant, but Alberta banned any activities until
Any
June
group
30th.
gathering things, yeah.
And it's not even that bad here.
Yeah.
So if you think that hockey's coming back anytime soon, you're crazy. I'm not saying you shouldn't be hopeful, but it ain't happening before July 1st. 0% chance of that.
I highly doubt that. And yeah, it was just so weird this weekend. On Saturday, you're just sitting there doing whatever the hell you're doing by yourself in your house. And I'm just thinking like, oh my God, do you know how many good games would have been on tonight?
Yeah.
Calgary, Edmonton, St. Louis, Colorado. There's endless amounts of so many good games. I'm pretty sure there was 15 games.
Yeah, I think so.
And then, oh man, it's just like, could you imagine? Like, that's like one of my favorite times of the year. You know, there would have been a couple playoff spots up for grabs still.
Yep.
So brutal.
It's very sad. Very sad panda time.
And the sad thing also is like we're probably not getting those games back. So,
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
just kind of, we're just kind of here.
Well, so that's the thing, right? Like, even if we do get to finish the regular season, the chances of it being in the same order as was originally planned, probably unlikely.
Yeah, who even knows, man?
Right?
Like,
So the fact that like the last game of the season might not be what it was supposed to be,
yeah.
which could be very disappointing.
Well, we could have already seen the last game of the season.
I would take any order they want to get hockey back playing just to see, just to be here.
Yeah.
You'll hear my thoughts in a minute about what I think should happen to end the year, but like, it's so minor in what really means anything right now that it's tough to ponder sometimes.
Pretty much.
But yeah, so there's that. Not a whole lot of hockey news. They had the live stream with like the Central Division and Landeskog and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The one main thing that we heard was the fact that the two Avalanche that had Corona are recovered and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the important news. That's good. That's great for the Avs. It's great for everybody. I think the Senators are in the same boat. I think everybody that's had it for them is recovered as well.
Yeah, and you'd think that they would have been some of the first guys to probably, contract it.
Yeah.
Being what it was.
Exactly.
So, yeah. That's good. I mean,
another COVID-19 Corona news. The Avs have partnered, I guess, with Rocky Mountain Hospital for Children. They kind of posted on their website today that there's a bunch of little activity things for your kids to do and stuff. So if they're bored at home, which I assume they are, because as an adult I'm bored at home, that I could literally play video games and watch Netflix from the time I get up until the time I go to bed, and I'm still bored.
oh, yeah.
And I'm an adult. I can't imagine how insane kids are going right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
Like, the amount of quality memes of like, oh, you're having a nice relaxing stay at home. Oh, you must not have kids.
Yeah.
And they're like losing their minds. Yeah, for sure. I expect that.
All the videos and stuff going around. I mean,
So funny.
at least you can get some entertainment out of it. I'm sure lots of parents aren't feeling the boredom. They're just like going crazy, I'm sure. So
They're
good luck to y'all out there.
This is why gun control is necessary, because if parents had an option right now, you have no idea.
Don't get tempted.
This is also why teachers at schools should never have guns, because kids are insane. Just kidding. But yeah, so before we jump into the Across the Quarantine with Grant, I'm sure many of you that follow us on Twitter or any of the Hockey Podcast Network have seen that Manscaped has come a calling for the Hockey Podcast Network. And if you've followed any of us on Twitter, you must have watched Hold the Mayo's unboxing of the tester package that Manscaped has sent.
The testy package?
The testy package that many people have received that host hockey podcasts for the Hockey Podcast Network, including Devin, who you heard from a few weeks ago on our podcast. His unboxing video is epic. Definitely one of my favorite things I've ever seen.
It's pretty good.
Us, though, Jared, myself, Brett, we have not gotten our package because we live in Canada and the border is a pain in the ass, basically. The few of us that are hosting podcasts from Canada that cover American teams have not quite received our packages, and it's unfortunate because I want to test it out. I want to see if I can shave my balls without nicking them.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great thing. That being said, the discount code is live for any of you that would like to protect your package.
Take care of that.
Sack.
Take care of the sack.
But yeah, so if you use code THPN, you can get 20% off your order and I think free shipping on the Lawnmower 3.0, which is what we're being sent, and all that jazz, whether it's like the conditioners and the lotions and all that good jazz, or whatever you want to buy from Manscaped, 20% off, free shipping, all that good stuff. Use code THPN. I can't wait to get our hands on it. I can't wait. Jared's face probably wants it to shave that mess. They also have the guarantee of if you nick your sack, send it back, which is an amazing guarantee.
Yeah.
Ladies, for those of you that are listening to the podcast, for the man in your life, or maybe even for yourself, I don't know, up to you, whatever. Maybe you got armpits to shave that you don't want to use a straight blade for. I don't know. Buy it for your man. Whatever. Go to Manscaped. They're amazing. Their
Seriously.
YouTube ads, their everything ads are unbelievable. Especially when you get a guy like Devin doing an unboxing like that. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Unreal. We're going to have to up our game on the hilarious sack-related.
Sack sample.
Sack-related puns,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, jump on the Manscaped bandwagon because it seems like it's unreal from what I've seen from our guys talking about it that actually have the product. Until then, though, we'll be waiting and waiting and waiting. Come on, just get across the border. It's tough because they only sell the Lawnmower 2.0 up here, so it's like I want to try the 3.
Yeah. Someday.
But yeah, now into the Across the Quarantine with Grant from Hunger for Hawks Talk. And it's always a pleasure to talk to him.
All right, boys. How's it going? This is Offside by a Mile. The boys, the fellies from Offside by a Mile. How are we doing today?
Hey,
Good,
guy.
good.
Hey, guy.
Hey, guy.
Hey, guys.
What up,
Hey,
guy?
It's going, man. It's good to talk about hockey. Makes things feel a little bit more normal, even though we don't get to watch it. Nothing quite like watching the Avs win the cup again.
Yeah.
You know?
Some of the vintage games, That's funny too. Yesterday I was watching 2002 playoffs with Toronto and Ottawa.
Oh, Jesus.
I was just like, man, it's so funny to just see some of the old games and you're just like, wow, the game is so much different.
I don't like it, but it's better than nothing.
It's awkward. Like there's like so many just blatant for like this age of NHL, just like blatant calls and stuff. You're just like, they're not gonna call that? Oh,
Okay.
right. It used to be like that.
Yeah, back when you could grab people's jerseys and arms and stuff as they're going by. Just
Yeah, the holds, man, just like literally holding their arm, and the other players too. It's so funny because they don't even care because that's
Yeah.
just how it was. They're just like, ugh, grab your arm back out. Like, yeah, it's not a hold.
Nah, it's fine.
yeah, pretty run of the mill kind of shit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Super funny to watch.
So it's been a minute or two since we talked to you.
Yeah,
I don't even. The only thing I remember is that you were here in studio.
It was
I
that
don't
December?
Even, yeah, I don't
Yeah, it
remember
was
when.
it was Christmas. It was over Christmas.
Right, because
Yeah.
that's why you were in
Christmas
town.
break.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
gotcha. Yeah.
Lots have changed since.
Lots has changed. Yeah. We I don't know if you guys knew this, but we were up here in Canada. We were addressed by the Queen today.
Oh,
Yeah.
Were we?
Yeah.
didn't notice.
Queen Elizabeth deigned to give us an announcement. It was actually pretty neat. But apparently it hasn't happened. It's only happened like 2 or 3 times in the history of ever.
Huh.
Well, in the history of her, which is like 100 years, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, the last time she addressed us was believe it or not, World War II, in 1942 or something, according,
Shit.
which is
Jeez.
pretty crazy. Which also just completely describes what kind of situation we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
For
Right.
those people that like 2.5, 3 weeks ago didn't think this was that serious, I don't hear much of that anymore.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Weird. It's almost weird when like experts tell you shit's hitting the fan. Maybe believe them.
Yeah, you know,
Weird.
people who are actually smart, we should be.
Yeah. Ignorance isn't bliss all the time.
Come
Into
at
the
it.
hockey
It's
front.
pretty
Okay, so we've kind of had this discussion, and I'd say this is the first time we've talked to someone who's in the position, kind of, that I've been talking about. So I want to hear your opinion. But the whole like, if the NHL resumes, which to me is becoming a bigger if every single day, which is unfortunate for the Avs. However, for a team like Chicago, I was kind of talking about this, like finishing out the regular season for teams like the Avs and teams that are on the playoff bubble and stuff like that is definitely ideal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to teams that are out of it, and I'm not saying that the Blackhawks are mathematically out of it, but the chances of the Blackhawks making it are pretty slim.
Yeah.
I've said that, well, obviously this is for a more extreme case like the Sharks and the Kings and the Red Wings and the Senators and stuff like that. Having like a mini 2-week training camp to come back and play 10 games that are absolutely meaningless to your club has got to be like difficult, right? Like I can't imagine there's a lot of teams that are, or a lot of players that really want to do that, aside from the fact that they're getting paid as if they played those games right now. What are your thoughts as a Blackhawks fan that's probably on the outside looking in?
I mean, as a fan, I want hockey back, so I want it back. Right? Like I would love to see that happen.
But-
I made some fantasy draft trades or some fantasy trades in fantasy hockey that isn't gonna, like, I traded for JT Miller. I traded my first round pick. Well, my second round pick. If I win, we put conditions on it. If I win, then I have to give up my first round, but I'm still giving up a second round pick. I only got like, I don't know, maybe 5 games out of them.
Yeah.
And now I'm out of a second round pick. So this is purely fantasy, but I mean, obviously I want it to come back as a hockey fan. I want hockey back. But looking at it, I do agree with you. I'm sure there are some players who, like you said, for the Kings especially, or the Red Wings, like why would you want to come back and play those 10 games? I can see some players want that because they might have performance bonuses in their contracts,
or they're expiring deals and they're looking for next year. But
yeah,
Jared kind of brought that up when we talked about it. And the whole like, if it's a player of that ilk that are, trying for their next contract, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's a guy on the Kings or the Red Wings that's, trying to play for a job next year on that team. My whole thing behind that is if you're still on the bubble 70 games in on a bad team, you didn't do your job for the last 70 games.
No.
Unless you're a guy that's like an AHLer that just got called up, right? Like if you've had a chance and you haven't proven it yet, the last 10 or 12 games ain't going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, unless
Right?
you're the Panthers and you've just been terribly mismanaged.
As usual.
True.
Yeah.
We've watched that happen for a long time.
Yeah.
But right, it's just a very weird time, and yeah, like you said, and I haven't even thought about the fantasy side of things of a partial return. Right? Like I think 2 weeks ago talked about like the 24 team option. Where you have a bit of a play in for those teams that are on the bubble, and then they play the top 8 or whatever that were solidified in the playoffs.
Yeah.
What happens to fantasy when 6 teams or 7 teams aren't playing and stuff? Because people have fantasy players on those teams. And man,
fantasy's a mess right now.
Again, it's part of the smaller picture in the grand scheme of the world. But like, if and when these things come back, something has to be done when it comes to fantasy, when it comes to betting in general.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I mean, it's crazy to
interesting.
think. It's crazy to think that the season, had it been, not paused, it would have been over yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I would have been a much happier person because I probably would have been up a couple $100. But what can you do?
I'm leading both of the fantasy pools that Jared, myself, and Brett are in together. I'm leading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like $1,000 just sitting there in limbo right now for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
right.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm with you. I'm with you on that for sure.
But yeah, I can totally see what you mean. I mean, it is tough because like some players they prefer to not have to play.
Yeah, right.
Right, because then they could just spend more time with their family and all these things to
the other thing, right? And people, they're hockey players. 99% of these guys love to play hockey.
Yeah.
There's the odd guy that's in it for the money and wouldn't want to play and blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying it for that reason. I'm saying it for the reason of like, what's the point? Because everybody talks about it all the time with the Stanley Cup hangover. Part of that is the fact that you don't get a full summer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you have to come back and play for 3 weeks and jam 10 games or 12 games into 3 weeks to not get summer, quote unquote, I can definitely see it being in your mind going, do we really have to play these? If you're a player that's on like one of the really bottom feeder teams.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be a thing that like, and to be honest, like I said earlier, like if you look purely at the numbers in the States, this ain't coming anytime soon.
Well, yeah, that's like just the thing that we heard. Was it all of Canada or was it just
I think
Alberta?
It's Calgary and Edmonton for sure.
Yeah, it was like June 30th. Everything's
Right.
canceled.
And Toronto.
Now.
People were talking about that in the hockey podcast group chat.
Yeah.
About, like, could they just play? Dude, the States ain't going to be ready by June 30th either.
Like, yeah, most of the places are all going to be shut down. So.
They should be doing the exact same thing they're doing here, right? Like, Alberta's not nearly as bad as they are in most of the states, and they're just saying, we're not doing anything past June 30th, up until June 30th.
And I think that's pretty tentative too, right?
Dude, it's as week to week, month to month as me working from home. Like,
yeah, right.
Until the numbers start dropping, and I don't mean stop growing. I mean literally just people getting healthy.
Yeah.
Nobody's going back to play hockey. Nobody's going back to work.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense, right? I mean, right? I think I heard that the NBA was looking at playing all their games in Vegas. So they just want all the teams.
About that yesterday.
I joked about that every game in Vegas too.
Yeah, they want all the teams just to be there, and then I guess they would just have games every 3 hours or something.
Why
like
Vegas?
Back to back or something.
I joked about Vegas too, but like, why Vegas? Is it really healthier? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know why
just
they chose
there's a
Vegas
whole bunch
too.
of hotels.
Yeah,
everybody's got a lot of hotels.
Hotels for hockey players, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning behind that was, but
But like I joked, but like I naturally went to Vegas too.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
It could easily be anywhere else. Like to me, you'd go to some hick town, like Minnesota. I'm just kidding, not hick town. Like away from a lot of places. Not like obviously New York's getting hit the hardest, but like you don't go to like the center of a metropolitan.
Yeah.
Right? You go somewhere that's like kind of sort of secluded, Midwest, like Nashville,
Yeah.
I don't know. I said Vegas too, and it makes me laugh at other.
Yeah,
things
it's interesting, right? Because it's definitely an option. If they really wanted to do it, I guess they could. Vegas would obviously, well, not even, because they probably wouldn't be playing in front of fans anyway.
No.
Yeah, that's
If
what
they
I
did
kinda
come back.
You
figure,
could
right?
literally play in front of. You could play at a community rink.
Yeah.
Come to Calgary. We'll play at Winsport.
Yeah, Winsport, it's like a regulation, right?
Yeah. I think it's international, so that's probably not
right.
ideal.
Yeah, you'd have to find like a regulation NHL size rink and
Just
I
go
don't
to
know.
everybody's practice facilities that have them. Call it a day.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that'll
Like-
work.
The Flames don't have them, but I know the Leafs have a practice facility. Most of the places that have a NBA and NHL franchise have to have a practice facility because of
right.
rink changeover.
Yeah, scheduling, conflicts and everything.
So like the Avs have a practice facility, right? So just play there. It might not look right, but it'll feel like NHL 20, and you're playing in like a college bar or
yeah.
something.
Just upgrade my rank here.
Actually, yeah.
Stage one.
Calgary could play at a like SAIT or something.
Yeah.
They got a decent sized NHL rink.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. But like you said, no fans makes it like you can basically play anywhere.
Mm-hmm. But now I think the NHL players have been ordered to self-isolate for another 10 days. They're ordered.
Especially the Avs, because we had 2 cases. I think Landeskog was saying on that Central Division call
They're
that both had recovered.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
So that's a good thing, but all of them are straight up self-isolated right now. So
Yeah. But
Again, right? Like, order it all you want. This is basically going to be a rolling thing.
Oh yeah, like I don't think they'll have finalized details of any kind until like a couple months down the road. Still, right?
So like my thought about the whole thing was just purely the fact of the matter where when they do go back, you're gonna have trainers, you're gonna have, because like you can have your own little group, like you can have your own little world, right? Your chefs and your trainers and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But eventually somebody has to expose themselves to the outside world. Like chefs are going to have to get food, which means boxes of shit and all the whatever.
Yeah.
And eventually it can find its way into your little individual world and it doesn't matter, right? So I don't know. It's going to be dicey. I still September probably at the earliest in my
Yeah, it's
it
looking
sucks,
longer
but-
and longer, right? Like
Yeah.
August, maybe late August, who knows?
Yeah.
It's just depressing.
I hate it.
So depressing.
Yeah, because at that point, it's like they really don't want to cut into next season.
Well, right.
But
Then
if
it
it's
can
in
happen.
September, like, fuck, you're...
Well, so this is the thing, right? And I've seen the comments and the statements kind of from Bill Daly and the rest of the league, and it's our priority is to get a full 2020-2021 season in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is it? But how much more important is it to play, say, 82 games next year versus 60 games next year and a Stanley Cup this year?
Yeah.
To me, I don't think the full season. I feel like the Stanley Cup outweighs a full season next year.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think that's the thing is like if you start scheduling like a quite late Stanley Cup, it's like you got to completely redo next year.
Well, to me, it's just a case of like we were just talking with fantasy, right? What about all the assets that were spent at the trade deadline?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
If
the
you
thing.
just don't give a cup away. To me, if you just don't give a cup, you have a whole bunch of backpedaling to do with the deadline.
Yeah. I mean,
And that's probably all trades for 2020. like 2019, 2020 period. Never mind just the deadline, right? And it's just, to me, the logistics and all of that to not hand out a Stanley Cup at the end of this season versus having a full 82 games next year, I don't think that's real. Like, I don't think that's more important.
I would think most people's priority in that position would be get the cup.
Yeah, to me, the top priority is
playoffs.
handing out a Stanley Cup this year.
Yeah.
Play 40
And whichever
games,
way they do
play
it.
a 48-game lockout, quote-unquote, shortened season next year, as long as you can get a cup this year. To
Just
me,
call it the COVID season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, and I mean, like, I think if you plan it and it's set in stone, then nobody's going to really. And like, I mean, like you kind of said, 60 games. Like, I think 60 games would be doable, right? If you start in like start of November or something.
we talked last week with Michael about it, right? And he brought up like the whole asterisk on the who wins the cup this year because of this break and all this stuff, and if it does get shortened and all that. And I brought up the fact that last lockout, when it was a 48-game season, how often do you think back to the Stanley Cup champion from that season and in your mind put an asterisk beside that cup?
Like, they didn't. earn
Never.
it.
Literally never.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's going to be an issue regardless of how many games. Until
was
they
it
change the playoff format, I don't
Exactly.
think anything is going to change in the history books of who won this cup, right?
Yeah.
It's just, to me, the top priority is the cup this year, because then you don't have to answer the questions and forever answer the question of, well, we traded this asset for this guy as a rental and we didn't get to use him.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads to my next question for you, since we haven't talked since the deadline. What are your thoughts on the deadline for the Blackhawks?
Well, I mean, the whole thing has been. I wasn't happy with our deadline, essentially.
Okay.
If I could just put it into, like, long story short, I wasn't happy with it, because I don't think we got enough value for the players we gave away. Particularly,
That being Robin Leonard,
Yeah.
Eric Gustafsson, and then TJ Brennan-ish.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know if I'd even include TJ Brennan, but
Yeah. But it was
because
definitely,
the only moves that we made were those two, and Eric Gustafsson, yes, he did not have the same season he had last year, but he's still a valuable player. He can contribute on offense. He's a good quarterback on the power play, and the fact that we only got a third round out of that guy is, especially when he was only making $1.2 million.
Yes, but he was awful this year.
He was pretty awful.
And
He's
he's a
not
rental.
very good. He's not very good at in his own end.
Right? And he's a rental, so it's not like you're not trading for his future necessarily.
Yeah.
So
That's
if
fair.
you're talking, he's been bad this year. The fact that, to me, the third is good.
I mean, I would have, yeah. No, you're right. I
Right,
mean,
like-
the fact that he got the third rounder right before the deadline basically means that nobody else valued him as a second rounder, which is
And-
what I would have wanted for him.
Of course, but to me, that's the name, quote unquote.
Yes.
Like, he is a potential first pairing guy, but not this year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's just an unfortunate,
But
stock drop,
he had
I
a
guess.
big time slump this year, right? And
Yeah.
I'll tell
definitely.
you firsthand, I have him on one of my fantasy teams, and just sitting there waiting for him to do stuff.
Mhm.
Come on, man!
Just poking him with the
You were
stick.
so good last year,
Yeah. He
right?
really was.
So, like, to me, the third's okay. Absolutely, as a Blackhawk fan, you're like, man, I wish we would have got more,
Mhm.
but I don't think he deserved to get more.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair.
And then the Leonard trade is just all kinds of fucked up.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like pieces and parts. I just mean like the three teams involved and what happened is crazy.
It's funny that we got another one of these. Was it last year or was it 2 years ago? The
Well, the-
Turris and
Duchesne trade.
yeah,
Right.
I think that's 3-4 years ago.
is it that long?
Yeah, because he was in Ottawa for at least 2.
Oh yeah, I guess it is that long. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah, that,
We
that
should
whole
know
mess
our,
of things. Yeah,
our namesake. We should know about his history. But But yeah, so the Leonard deal, I don't know. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I wasn't happy with it. I mean, a second rounder and two prospects. I mean, Slava Demin, I did a bit of a spotlight on him last week, and he might turn into something, but he's not going to be a top 4 guy. He might be, but he won't be ready for at least another 3 or 4 years.
Calling Subban a B prospect is very nice of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think
could be generous.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that he's had a bad rep. I don't think that he's been able to find his footing in the NHL. Like when last year when Fleury went down, he actually played pretty well for Vegas. Like he stepped in and was able to play okay until
so did a
he went
junior
down with
goalie
injury.
Though.
Who's that?
Dylan Ferguson played all right too.
Oh yeah, right. That was the other. That was the last.
The first season of Vegas when they had 5 goalies. They had 5 goalies that were capable, and one of those was a junior hockey goalie, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So
and
that's
Vegas
the
was a
other
really
side
good
of the
team.
coin.
Yeah,
that's the other side. Yeah, like Subban was okay, but so was a guy that was a junior hockey goalie. So it's like,
yeah,
I don't know if that means a lot.
Yeah, so that's what I mean is that I wasn't happy with it.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Especially since there were reports that he was willing to take on a shorter term contract for a team friendly contract. There were reports that was being floated around that he had told management that he was willing to accept such a thing.
Oh, like an extension.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't believe that idea is out the window either.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like
this could easily be a sign and trade.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying because I was trying to make sense of it at the time, and to me, the only way that made sense was for Stan to be like, okay, so if we agree verbally that you will sign a contract with us in the offseason, how about we send you over to Vegas, you get a cup run in you, get some more playing time, you can experience the playoffs with a very good team, and you can come back to us over the summer, and then you'll be our number 1, because that's the only way that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Because there's absolutely no way that Bowman can still think that Corey Crawford is our number 1 goaltender next year.
If he re-signs Crawford as the number 1 guy, that is a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably at this point.
He's been making a lot of those mistakes lately.
It's true.
Right. So this offseason is going to be huge for him, especially since Rocky Wirtz said that he still believes in this front office. So there will be no changes. The entire front office staff will be back. Bowman, the coaches, everybody. So, all the Hawks fans have been calling for Bowman and Colleton's head since basically Quenneville got fired.
So I wanted to ask about him too. So keep going, but I want to hear your thoughts on Colleton.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he can be a good coach. He's just not ready at the time. I mean, I'm going to give him credit. He does adapt to things pretty well. Like when there was a stretch there where our offense suffered really badly because he was trying to get the Hawks to play defense, and that's just not our game. Like we're a run and gun style. Try to score more than the opponent team. Our defense is built that way, and our offense is built that way. So he was trying to get us to play defense. He tried to get one of the wingers to play down low, and that just completely tanked our outbreak passes, and we weren't able to get past the neutral zone. So when he discovered that after like 5 games or something like that, he did make a change, and we had that stretch where we went on that winning streak right before the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was the biggest thing, is that I think that the players just don't, I don't know if they don't respect him or if they just don't listen to him or what it is. There's just been no consistency the entire season. Like they'll play well a couple games, and I don't know if it's a coaching change that makes them do it, but they just stop playing the way that they had success. And it's like game by game that happens. So one game we'll win, and then the next game we get blown out 7-2 by New Jersey. Right.
Ouch,
so
yeah.
it's just like, it's that kind of up and down kind of type of games that we've been playing all season. And really you can't really blame anybody else other than the coach, because they're the ones who are telling these players to do what they need to do.
Yep, we've had those conversations with Bednar this year, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's kind of one of the things you see too with an experienced team led by an inexperienced coach, for sure. You're going to see the up and downs big time, a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, as a Blackhawks fan, you're going to hope that the veteran guys, players, are going to help smooth that along, but they're not the same as they once were, except for Patrick Kane. He is unreal.
Yeah.
As
That's the
usual.
biggest thing
Angels.
is that a lot of it too is, I mean, people forget that we had to deal with a lot of injuries. I mean, we lost two of our top four defensemen pretty early in the season. Calvin DeHaan was playing really well with Brent Seabrook before they both went down with injuries. Connor Murphy wasn't healthy at the beginning of the season. So like, we really didn't have a full roster all at once, because Andrew Shaw was out and has been out for the rest of the was shut down before the season paused, but he was out for the bulk of the season with another concussion. And, Kajula was out for a while. Zach Smith is now out. And we just didn't have that full lineup. And so it was a little more difficult, I think, finding that chemistry, because there were a lot of pieces that had moved out and moved in. So that had a lot to do with it too. But I mean, there's just no excuse. It's 70 games in.
I was going to say, you're not going to find a lot of sympathy on our podcast.
Yeah, that's the thing.
For injuries,
no, that's the thing. That's what the most frustrating thing is, that like, to an extent, yeah, injuries, you can say that had something to do with it, but you're still playing with the same group, and it's up to the players to put in the effort, and it's up to the coach to, tell them what to do properly, and make sure that they're playing the game.
Combos.
Yeah. And like, he was also constantly moving the lines, shifting the lines up and down. So that was kind of hard to see, because, you want these guys to build chemistry together. And
It's always hard to watch that, where the line juggling but not performing stuff. Because on one side of the coin, you're like, man, just give him a chance. But at the same time, you watch a couple of games of the same guys doing absolutely nothing. You're like, hey, let's change this up, would you?
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? It's hard to win unless guys click right away.
Yeah, totally. 100%. But
period, right? End of story.
Yeah. But I mean, now that this has happened, honestly, I am a little thankful that we didn't, because like, there were a couple things we could have done, right? I mean, 3 things we could have done. We could have sold like we did. We could have stood pat, or
even then, like, you guys didn't sell that bad.
No, exactly. But we were able to get a couple draft picks out of it, so that's okay. And I mean, I think I'm 100% thankful that we didn't buy, because at the time I knew we weren't contenders. I did not want us to buy, but especially with the way that we were playing at the time. But I'm a lot more thankful now that we didn't end up doing that, because, there are a lot of head scratchers now, particularly with trades involving players on expiring contracts that we had, touched on briefly. And I want to move into, if you guys are good, I want to move into this article that from Sportsnet by Chris Johnston that where he went over the biggest unanswered questions from this pause. And so he had the founder of Cap Friendly on there too. So they were just, talking about some of the biggest things. We're not going to go over all of it, but I thought it'd be interesting to go through a few of them and, just kind of share our thoughts. Cause, when I was saying with trades involving players on expiring contracts, Toffoli, Taylor Hall, like those teams are probably kicking themselves. Cause I mean, the Vancouver Canucks only got 10 productive games, but they only got 10 games out of Tyler Toffoli.
Well, that's right. Like that's the question. And then if you go to that, question of like how much is getting use of a player, right? Because like the NHL could come back and say, right, because teams that did make the trades for these players, Vancouver, Arizona, you can even go back to like Tampa Bay and some of the stuff they traded, right? And even Vancouver with JT Miller, right? But again, they can say like, oh, we traded for so and so to help us with the playoff run or help us with, whatever. And then the NHL can come back and say, well, he played X games for you, so he benefited you for X games.
Yeah.
And say, be done with it and whatever, right? So it's a spicy meatball for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. And another thing to think about too is for the players on the expiring contract, right? Their contracts are supposed to end June 30th, right? July 1st is the free agency. So if the NHL does indeed resume and they end up having to play, or they end up having to go through training camp, they end up having to play 10 games or whatever, or even if they jump right into the playoffs, what are these players still insured at that point?
I'd assume that's probably a easy question to answer because
you'd hope.
I do, but like I think because like, and obviously the NHLPA is a pain in the ass. Like as a fan, they're a pain in the ass. That's their job, right? Every players union, every union in existence is supposed to be a pain in the ass. So they could make this hard. However, as far as I know, the players have gotten paid for their 82 games. Because I believe they were getting paid for the last 6 weeks or whatever since the NHL paused, right? Which means you got paid for your 82 games. So to me, it should be a pretty easy, these are still games under the 2019-2020 calendar. We're extending your contract dates until the end of that calendar season. It's not like all of a sudden this is turning into a 100-game season.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, to me, should be an easy question to answer as long as the NHLPA is not a pain in the ass and just somehow says, screw you guys, like, we need more money.
Kind of reform the whole contract here and be like, okay, let's not put a date down. Let's put the end of the season.
Yeah. Like, to me, like that.
After the last game played.
Right? To me, that's all it has to change, right?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, though, right, it has a lot to do with the clubs as well because if you're like this, we're talking about like insurance for if a player is involved in career-ending injury.
For sure.
Right. So if you are extending their benefits, their insurance, right, you're paying for that. Yep. You're paying for an extra month or however long for these players. You don't only have one player, though. You got to multiply that cost by however many. Like, are the owners going to be willing to cough up that amount? Or is every owner going to be willing to cough up that amount? Will the clubs be able to do all that? And so it's just a lot of these questions, right? Like a lot to think about.
To me, that question is more on each individual owner. If they want to fight about it, you fight the insurance company. Because, right, like, your guess is as good as mine as to whether that insurance company is counting these as insured months or like weeks or whatever, like whatever they call this. Like, are they? How do you put it? Because like you said, it's career-ending injury and stuff. These guys aren't doing anything right now, in theory, that is putting them at risk. So, but at the same time, if a player did, I don't know, Dustin Bufflin and ride a quad and break his ankle or whatever, that's not real. I don't know if that's what happened.
I hope so.
But right, like I'd imagine if a player got hurt now, that insurance would take effect. So it's on the insurance company as to whether or not they charge for the insurance.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if it's the owner being cheap and not wanting to pay for the extended coverage, well, then I think that's on the owner more than on anyone else.
Yeah.
And if you want to fight about it, that's the owner fighting the insurance company. But to me, like, you're right. I do believe that's a question. But at the same time, that owner is paying insurance for 50 guys 12 months a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it really changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, you may be paying for insurance on a different 50 guys. I'm talking like the 50 of 50 salary, like contracted players, right?
Yeah,
Under the
on
roster.
the roster, yeah.
That, like, they're paying insurance for all of their players all the time.
Right.
So pushing that 2 months down the road on the current players you have, I don't think really changes anything, because it's not like they're going to have – there will be some overlap on, like, college free agents and, you know, not freshly drafted, but, like, guys that were playing in junior that you didn't sign this year, but there's teams like the Avs just did it with a couple of their guys.
Yeah.
There's plenty of teams that have signed guys. So you might have a little bit of overlap where it's like 52 or 53 guys, but I don't think the insurance question is really that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Because, because normally speaking, your guy's under contract from July 1st to June 30th of the following year. Well, if it's all of a sudden that this year runs from July 1st to September 1st or September 30th or whatever, well, the next year's calendar year is going to run from October 1st to whatever the arbitrary end date is, right? So it'll be less than 12 months. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it's short-sighted.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, you're not wrong. It's definitely another cost that the owner's probably going to have to pay.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, it's definitely it's just a lot of these kind of interesting questions, because
it's definitely a question that I never thought of, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, if you're a player and you find out you're not insured, are we going to get people who don't want to play, who are going to hold out?
This is the argument as old as time with the Olympics, right? This is it. This is the one, right?
Yeah.
So it's, why do I have to pay to insure my player to go play there and not make any money?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
That's the thing.
That's the same argument.
We can move into something that's more pertinent for your Avs, for you Avs fans there, with the entry level sliders specifically. So clubs who don't want to burn the first year of their entry level contract players can just make sure that they don't play them for more than 9 games.
Which we all know that Martin Kaut is fringe sitting on the fence.
Yep.
Exactly. So if this is according to the article, and this is just a I guess a thought from the founder of Cap Friendly, but he's saying that, let's say the NHL implements a prorated system based on 70 games. Does that 9 games now become the equivalent of 10 or 11?
Oh, I didn't think of that.
So all of a sudden, the early end to the season might mean they burn a year off their entry-level contract, even though the club had no plans to do so.
I wonder what that was in the lockout shortened season. Like, I don't even know if that was a thing then.
Yeah, I don't even know.
I think that's
So
when it
long
started. I think this entry-level slide started after that lockout.
Yeah, you might be right.
So I don't know if that was a thing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's
sketch. It's like,
it wouldn't, like, we talked about it before this, because we were talking about how the fact that, like, if the Avs weren't going to play Martin Kaut for the rest of the season, or like up to 20 games or something like that, because it was during the time when the Avs were incredibly injured, McKinnon was out, stuff like that,
right?
Where they were desperate for forwards that could play in an NHL level.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, screw this, Martin Kaut was really good, bring him up, play him, we'll deal with the contract stuff later. But then it got to the point where it was right there, and you could see a couple guys were getting healthy, and Martin Kaut might only played 2 or 3 more games, so he might have got to 11 or 12 games for the season. And then you're sitting there going, well, is it really worth it to burn a potentially money-making year?
Especially since Colorado was still winning games.
Yeah. Yeah, they were still winning games without him and stuff, and
yeah,
it got to that. So it, like, again, I don't think it's that big of a deal to burn the year, because you're not, like, Martin Kaut's not Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah,
he's not going to make $10 million a year that year that you burn.
Yeah.
In theory, right?
Yeah.
Well, you hope not.
But
yeah,
well,
if he does,
you hope
he's
to.
gonna.
You hope he does, but you hope he doesn't.
Score 50
you
goals
hope he
next year.
You hope he McKinnon's where he's bad. Well, not bad, but not great, not great, not great. Holy shit, he's a superstar.
2 years into that contract.
Right.
Sign that
Yeah.
contract, yeah. And
Everybody hopes that's the guy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you hope you don't get burned by burning a year.
Mm-hmm.
But if all of a sudden this forces their hand, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, just kidding, he did play 12 games, the equivalent of 12 games, so you're burning that year. It's like, well, that sucks.
That would suck
Yeah.
because that was part of their strategy, right? You
Yeah,
know
like,
that they were like, okay,
They were thinking about it. So that's
we're right here, so yeah.
I feel like they wouldn't do that, but they could for sure.
Yeah. Because like it could have it can definitely have an effect later on, right? Because I mean, if we apply it to the Hawks, I mean, DeBrincat's extension kicks in next year. He'll be making $6.4 million after his entry level contract.
Yep.
You know, if this were the case, I would have loved to see an additional, you know, ELC year from him for next year. Because I mean, like he dropped off significantly between this year and last year. Like his production has dipped significantly.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if we had that extra year, then, you know, maybe we could have signed him to something less than 6.4. But I mean, at this point, it's pinching pennies. But with the Hawks, I mean,
but some teams need to pinch pennies. The thing with the Hawks,
precisely.
though, like, the one thing though, like that's different with that situation is the fact that he's played full seasons.
Oh yeah,
right. Like
totally.
You'd love the extra season, but it's the question, like you're saying, right? How many times has it, like, this is the thing. This is a whole conversation of the slide and all this stuff. How many times is that player that you're sliding or debating about sliding actually turned into a player like DeBrincat, where all of a sudden he's making $6 million and you're like, ooh, I don't know if we should have signed him to that because his production dropped off. Where you played him 10 games in his first season, or 12 games, or 15 games.
Usually you're just gonna play them whatever they want to play or can play.
I don't know if any player has gone from being a AHL call-up mid-season where you're debating this slide to all of a sudden a 40-goal scorer or 60-point guy, right? Like, most likely,
that happens in NHL 19, right? NHL
all the time. But right, like, as much as we'd love to see it as Avs fans, you want every single player you have to turn into a stud.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Kaut's probably going to turn into an NHL. Well, he is an NHL player. We saw that. He's very good at what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be a 45-point guy? Maybe.
Hopefully.
But is he going to be 80, 60, 65, 70? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that rate, like, who cares if you're paying him? Like, obviously, saving $1 million is sweet. But, like, this means he's going from, like, a $2-3 million player to, you know, the league min entry level for one season.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to hurt the Avs in the long run.
No,
but
I don't
it is
think
worth
so.
bringing up for sure.
I mean, overall, the thing that's going to hurt every team the most is the cap next year and everything, right? Like, the economy of the whole league is just dropping right now.
Well,
and that goes for, like, every league, but...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, and I'm sure, I haven't read this article, but I'm sure the cap gets brought up, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. They're saying that it's estimated, the NHL is estimating that if the season is lost, then they're going to lose $1 to $1.2 billion, which is significant because it was supposed to go, the cap was supposed to go up between $3 to $8 million or something, right?
Yeah, like this is, I feel like this year was the most optimistic about next year's cap in a long time, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So now it's like the complete opposite.
It was like less than 10 days after they brought up the cap that this happened.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I just want to make it clear that I don't think that the DeBrincat deal was bad. I think the extension is good. He's going to live up to that contract 100%. Yeah. I think this year is going to is going to be an outlier, but it is something that, you know, you do need to keep an eye on. And this article I found did a really good job of like giving us a glimpse into what the front office has to look at, right? Because there are all these intangibles that they got. Well, they're not intangibles, but there are all these things that they have to you know, take into effect and think about, because it does have cascading effects on your team. There's
a reason why every front office has a cap guy.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Is the compliance buyout brought up in this article?
Um,
Because that's a question that I have. Because right, like when they came out of the lockout, right, the whole question of, or not the question, but like teams got 2 compliance buyouts, right, to buy out a guy, not cost against the cap, blah 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 blah.
yeah, I think they had something about no movements and no trade clauses.
It's just that's because that's a one thing, right? If now this is probably to me what's probably going to happen is escrow is going to go through the roof,
that's the other
and
thing.
the cap is probably going to stay the same.
Yeah.
I doubt it drops because at the same time,
It'd be
right,
so tough if it drops.
players
Oh
need
my
to
God, it would be
like
terrible.
players are going to do the same thing, right? Because I think the NBA is kind of going through that where they're talking about like a pay cut, like a 20% pay cut and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not an NBA guy, so I don't know the full details and how exactly that 20% pay cut's going to happen. But that's basically what escrow is to the players in the NHL, right? If you leave, right, because obviously players aren't going to want to get bought out necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's basically either you eat a bunch of escrow, in basically taking a pay cut that could go up and down, right? It's not a set in stone pay cut, right? I think it came out that the 2018-2019 escrow was like just under 10% or something that the players ended up paying. And so basically, like they could jack that number up to 20%. So in theory, the NHL players take a 10% pay cut, keep the cap the same. Teams don't necessarily get extra screwed. Teams like the Leafs and teams that are like right at the cap are going to get screwed because they needed the extra money to spend.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't necessarily have to buy out players to survive. Or you lower the cap, and then you probably have to give a buyout, I would think. Because I don't know about the Blackhawks. I guess with Crawford coming off the books, you probably wouldn't need one.
Well, no, we would.
But I think you'd probably love one.
We would love one.
I think you'd love one for a guy that plays defense that's hurt.
Well, maybe. I would.
So let's the Avs I don't think have a guy that they would buy out, but the Blackhawks definitely do.
Yeah.
Who would you buy out if you could?
Oli Mata, 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
I
still think
about that.
I think Brent Seabrook can come back. I do think that it might be delusion, but
I
you
think
got to
it's
also think about have to think about that this guy has been playing through hip. The guy got 2 hip surgeries and a shoulder surgery.
We have a guy with 2 hip surgeries too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been
Jared's a big fan.
but Seaves has been playing through those injuries. So
yeah, but to me, this is why I don't agree with that. And you watch the Blackhawks more than I do. Oli Mata has a $4 million cap hit, roughly, for 3. Well, this year and 2 more. Seabrook is 6.875 for 4 more after this year.
Yeah,
That is off the books for 4 years if you buy him out. To me, that's the logical choice.
It's the logical choice. It would be
Duncan
detrimental. It would be detrimental to our leadership group. It would be detrimental to our.
They traded Dustin Byfuglien away. They'll be fine.
I mean, Dustin Byfuglien, yeah, but he's not the heart and soul of a team. Like he doesn't. He's not. He's not the guy that brings the team together. Brent Seabrook is that guy. He's the guy who brings the prospects into his house. Like Kirby Dach's been living at his house the entire year. He's been learning from Brent Seabrook. Brent Seabrook is the guy when you walk into the locker room. He's the guy who will, talk to you and bring you into the room. He welcomes everybody that comes in from a different team. Like he is that guy for the Blackhawks. So if he's gone, and you could tell too, as soon as he went down with injury, the mood of the room changed because his vocal leadership wasn't there.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, like across the board with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't worth 6.875. Ever. When you're up against it, that is never worth that.
Yeah. I mean, 3 cups, it's worth 3 cups.
Yeah, that's
That's
okay.
what it's worth.
Take your freaking get out of jail free card and get rid of it. He still gets paid. Jonathan Taves is making 10.5. He can freaking suck it up and bring in a draft pick to his house. Captain Serious has got to pull his weight here. 10.5. Like, that's my thing. Like, you talk about Stan Bowman making mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional decisions get you every single time. The reason this Blackhawks got 3 cups is because he had balls of steel and did not give a shit. That's why Dustin Byfuglien went out the door.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Brandon Saad went out the door the first time. He shouldn't have came back, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That was a whole other
Right?
thing.
Like, this is a very long conversation, right? But 6.875 when you're up against it, man, it's hard to say the intangibles.
I mean, I'm sure that you'd think that they would be looking at that, but
I'll definitely give you the Ole Mata's a close 2 or 3 for sure, in my opinion.
yeah, he kind of just fell out.
It's got to me, your top 3's got to be Seabrook, Keith, and Mata for sure. Right?
No, our top 3 are.
I'm saying for buyout possibilities.
Oh, buyout possibilities. Yes.
That's got to be in your top. Like, that's got to be your top 3. However you situate them, just out of money standpoint, right? Duncan Keith is how much? He had 1 goal last year, or not?
Did he only have 1 goal?
I don't know. It was bad.
It might have been.
I remember it took him a long time to score. I think he had
He got to 100 this year, but he had 6
last year.
Yeah.
Maybe
it is kind of crazy that
maybe it was just like 1 assist in a whole bunch of games or something.
Yeah.
Because it was rare. Oh, he had 2 goals. Sorry, it was 2017, 2018 I'm thinking of. He had 2 total.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it when he hit the 100 and I was like, what?
Yeah, I was like, how is he not?
That's it?
How is he not blown past that already? Yeah, but you look at these numbers and it's like, he's like 6, 2, 3.
I guess he didn't never really score that much. I guess he's
his
the breakout and
career high is 14.
Yeah,
yeah,
in a season. Yeah,
yeah.
That was his 69-point season. But yeah, I mean, I would agree with that probably. Probably.
It's just making the right choice is hard, but I just think you're also to me with the Ole Mata question or Ole Mata answer, you're not looking at what Seabrook is going to be in 3 years. Like after Mata's contract's over, just how bad is Seabrook going to be?
That's
after 2 hip surgeries and a shoulder surgery and whatever else comes along.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just.
I mean, if anybody could come back from an injury like that, it would be Brent Seabrook. Like, I don't doubt his drive. I don't doubt his commitment, his determination. I think he could do it.
That's what makes it so hard.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. And we don't know what he's going to look like when he comes back, right? And let's face it, we're not going to contend next year.
No.
So we have the time to make that decision.
And you also have time to not need a player to be the heart and soul of your leadership group. You can build another one.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of around that time for Chicago to kind of be turning a leaf over when it comes to
the leadership
group and finding a new body to kind of take control. I can see that, I guess. But, yeah. I mean, there's going to be lots of tough decisions for a lot of teams.
Yes.
Around that whole entire conversation. So,
that being said, we've been talking for almost an hour.
I was just kind of looking at that.
Yeah.
Maybe even an hour. I don't have the timer this time.
I mean, that
flies by, man.
I told you. You asked what we were going to talk about, and I said anything and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really does.
It just happens
its own way.
I mean, you bringing up this article definitely helped, but
yeah. Well, there's one more topic I want to talk about.
Okay, let's do it.
I think is really cool. Definitely something that we need to think about is the Seattle expansion.
Yeah.
So
it's been on my mind a little bit.
Yeah, how is the shortened or lost season going to impact a player's pro seasons calculation for an expansion draft, right? So, refresher on the expansion rules. Teams must expose at least 2 forwards and 1 defenseman to Seattle who are under contract for 2021-22 and have played at least 40 NHL games in 2020-21 or 70 NHL games total since the start of the 2019-20 season.
Ooh,
Yeah.
See, I could see prorated numbers there for sure.
I could, yeah. I mean,
could definitely see prorated numbers.
well, because
there.
how else do you help that?
Yeah, because this would 100% change Seattle's plans. With who they like, the pool that they have is going to change.
Yeah.
The amount of side deals that are going to happen because GMs are trying to protect certain players might not even end up happening because the players that they're trying to protect might end up being ineligible, right? Like a good example would be Juuso Välimäki in Calgary, right? He's been on IR all season, but he's resumed skating. He needs one more pro game to be draft eligible in 2021. So what are they going to do with that?
I don't see that. I don't think that's going to ever matter because his one game's coming next year no matter what.
Yeah, that's true.
The Flames need him. Like,
yeah, he would be playing, and if they play any regular season games at this point, he'd probably be playing.
But he's playing a game next year, unless he blows a wheel again somehow in training camp.
Yeah.
But no, like,
I could definitely see
there's going to be players like that you're not thinking of for sure.
Or, like players who have to play like 20 games.
If a player's at 69 games,
what do you do?
Because he had say 30 this year, but was on the roster and he was healthy and he was going to play the last 12 or even one,
and then end up at the end
he ends
of
up at 69 after next year. I think Seattle's. I think what. You're going to see a lot of arguments on the fringe, though, from teams and from Seattle. Like, from teams that currently have the player, and then from Seattle wanting to draft that player.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's going to be...
That's going to be interesting, too, because it's going to be like everybody, and then Seattle's like, come on!
Well, and then, too, on top of that...
But he would have played that many games.
What happens if there's 60 games next year instead of 82?
That, too,
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah, I didn't.
Then you're just like calculating ratios and shit.
I was just thinking about just the pure fact of like them coming into the league and money wise and time wise. Time wise, it might work out for them because construction always is on schedule, always.
Yeah.
So this may end up pushing 2021, 2022 back a little bit too, if they want to get extra games into 2020, 2021. So they might have a little bit, like maybe a month longer to get their building ready to go. But when it comes to drafting the team itself, man, that is not even something I was thinking about.
I'm glad this is not my job.
Right?
Dude.
Could you imagine the headache of all of this? And it's like, you think about scheduling.
It was
too,
crazy
right?
enough
like,
for Vegas with a perfect scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind the fact that
it's funny too because every team's like, okay, so we kind of got the idea of this expansion draft process now. And then it's just like throwing some more wrenches. Yeah, exactly, right? Like, oh shit, what the f do we do now?
Oh, you got a handle on it, do you?
It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Try again.
It's like, oh, well, yeah.
I thought the side deals were going to be minimal because of just how bad they were last year. Because like I think Ken Holland, Ken Holland said it the best, I think, then. Because I don't think Ken Holland made a deal, and they had tons of guys that were exposed and good players. And he basically said at the end of the day, I'm losing one player. No matter what I do, I'm losing one guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for the most part, spending an asset to protect a guy is generally worth more than the difference between the two guys.
Yeah.
And if you look at what fucking Florida did.
I was going to say, unless you're Florida.
Unless you're Florida and you give up 3 guys, basically.
2/3 of their top line.
They were thinking.
Yeah.
Like, that was so stupid.
Another shot at Florida before we end this. This whole thing means that they ended up giving up Vincent Trocheck for Lucas Wallmark at the trade deadline.
Yeah, that
because
was
Eric Howell is a UFA. after this year.
Yeah.
That was also awful.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Hull is not exactly great, but
No, but I mean, he was the best player in that package coming back.
yeah.
And they were 2 points out of a playoff spot
Yeah.
when they made that deal.
Yep.
Yeah, not a fun season for Florida. I'm
Oh
sure.
my
It hasn't
God,
been
it
a
was
fun
ridiculous.
few seasons for Florida.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. Like, I like Florida. I like the team.
I want
like
them
the
to
team a
succeed
lot.
too.
Yeah, I like
I
the team a
don't.
lot. You know, Q is there. Barkov's a beauty. I
Yeah.
love Huberdeau. I mean, they got Bobrovsky, but Bobrovsky has been just god awful.
Yep. I knew that was coming, and I drafted him in fantasy anyway. 'Cause I'm an idiot.
But
I drafted him
maybe.
too.
I drafted him and immediately was so mad at myself. So I have a theory, and you can see it in almost every goalie in the league. When you go and you change like a dramatic change of teams, your first season's awful.
Yeah,
And I believe in that theory, and it works a lot of the time.
yeah.
I still drafted him in the freaking second round of fantasy, and I was like,
Ooh,
why?
second's a little high.
Yeah, it was
Second's
awful.
a little high.
It was he was my
Hellebuck would
highest
have been
goalie.
available.
Yeah, but Hellebuck was on the Jets, who are awful.
Was a big question mark, I guess.
Like going into this year, Hellebuck was going to get shelled, and the only reason he didn't get shelled was because he was a god.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was not drafting Hellebuck at all. Like I didn't touch him.
Well, according to our point system, I guess it's different point system for everybody, but he's one of the top goaltenders, and I have him in both leagues.
for sure.
So
Yeah.
it's good.
There's
But-
a reason he should win the Vezina.
Yeah. But
he
I mean,
probably
like
will win the
there's
Vezina,
there's also no blame on. I mean, I believed in the Panthers this year. I mean, you looked at
Me
the
too.
team at the
So
beginning.
did I.
They had all the pieces. They got the defense. They have the forwards up front, and just what they've done with the team, like it's just unbelievable. Could you imagine if they still had Riley Smith and
Man,
Marchessault.
and Marchessault?
shit, they could have been so much better this
They
year.
could have been
Yeah.
so much more.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
Like it's
100%.
ridiculous. I can't believe that. I just can't. It
So
did not
just-
compute.
Just remember, however mad you are at your team's GM, it could be so much.
Can
worse.
always be worse. Yeah. Fuck.
Well, it's funny because Dale Talon used to be the
in
guy,
Chicago.
right?
Yeah.
So,
But
it's
to be
interesting.
honest, I don't think he was the one that pulled the trigger. Like I don't think he was the guy in charge of the Marchessault and Smith move. I think that was I think
Oh,
the
yeah.
rumor was there was strings being pulled by someone else.
Because
on
he
that
wasn't Dale Talon at the time.
He was
wasn't the
president, I
GM.
think.
He was
I
the
think
president, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, he should have. It would have come across his desk. He would have needed to approve it. No.
For sure, but that like the thing is, right? It's the thing with being a president everywhere. You seem to get a lot of the credit when things are good, and a lot of the like you don't get touched when it's bad. Because like, well, yeah, but like you got to let the guy do his job. If you're not going to let the GM do his job, you might as well just be the GM.
Yeah.
But then when things go well, you're like, oh man, he's really watching over this team really well.
Yeah.
Hawk,
Good thing I picked him, eh?
right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. Florida is in shambles. It's kind of like just watching. Well, I mean, it's natural to watch Florida be bad.
Yeah.
Right? Everything
It's been a
everything is
while.
normal. It's like watching the Oilers be bad.
What is it? Since probably like what mid '90s since Florida's actually
Yeah,
been
pretty much.
competitive.
The rat season or whatever.
Yeah.
I just
it's like-
I just
it's
hope
like-
they relocate because I mean,
Florida, please. I mean, Florida to Quebec, please.
yeah. Oh my God, I'd be so happy. I would be an instant Nordiques fan.
Yeah, so I like, and it would make sense, right? You can keep
Yeah.
the division the same.
The Avs can. Yeah, we'll give you the Nordiques. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure we wouldn't mind. You know,
I
like the
honest- I don't
Jets
even
and
know.
Jets situation.
I don't know if they would.
I bet you. Well, I guess it all depends. I don't know who fucking knows.
That's another question for another day.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a pleasure as always, Grant.
Yeah, boys. Thanks for
Yeah,
having
man, it
us
was good
on,
to
and
catch up.
yeah,
Stay
thanks for
safe.
reaching out and doing this again. This was definitely
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
Yeah, you too, buds.
Enjoy whatever the hell you're watching to keep yourself busy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stay
man.
entertained and
Play video games all day.
That's what I'm hoping to do.
All right, man. Thanks for having us, and thanks for coming on and all that good jazz.
Yeah, buddy. We'll catch you guys soon.
Yep.
Sounds
See ya.
good.
Yeah, again, thanks to Grant for coming on the podcast. It was good. Good chat as always. Long chat this time.
Which is good.
Everybody asks, what are we going to talk about? I don't know. Let's see where it takes us.
We just find a direction and we just kind of
an hour
head
later,
on out.
We're still talking.
Balls to the wall.
Like I said earlier, Spencer is lined up for next week's recording. So
looking forward to that.
If you haven't checked out the last conversation we had with him, it's on the Offside by a Mile individual page.
Mm-hmm.
That I think it's on YouTube as well.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, so if you want to go check that out, I'm sure it'll be a very similar chat, just talking about the Avs. Some actual real deal Avs content for the entire probable hour. I would assume it's going to be an hour because it's always an hour.
I mean, if there's any indication of our history, yeah, probably. So,
Yeah.
Until
Until then, we hope you stay safe. We hope you enjoyed the episode. We hope we brighten some of your stay-at-home time. And please, go check out Manscaped.
Yeah.
The biggest thing you can do to support us is by going to iTunes or Apple Podcasts and giving us a 5-star rating. Also, if you're looking to donate to the network, visit the Hockey Podcast Network's Patreon page. All donations go straight to the podcast host. Thanks, and see you next episode.
You're listening to the Hockey Podcast Network on Twitter @HockeyPodNet. New episodes every Monday and Thursday. Download at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from.